I had liked you too. Love Notes on the Edge of California's Demise from a former California Military Academy Cadet by Nick Lovett, Black Girls Are God. Trigger warning, this piece references war, imperial violence, grape, and sexual assault. 9th grade was probably my breaking point. It was my 4th year at the academy, and I was a trembling leaf. My English teacher said to us, "They didn't really want me to show you this." She looked solemnly around the room, but I was able to convince them. The documentary she showed us is appropriately titled The Invisible War. It's about how, within the United States military, abusers and rapists run the ranks. They run the world. The Invisible War premiered in 2012 to explosive reviews in the documentary and film world. But since we were children in a school such as this, how would a film that showed the darkest depths of sexual abuse within military ranks be available to us? It was as if explosives had gone off in me. The film was scaring me, the school was scaring me, the boys who were harassing me, who I now saw could possibly become men like these one day, was scaring me. I anxiously asked my friends what they thought of the film, if they would reconsider the military. They looked at me blankly. But I don't want to get raped by my platoon leader and then him not get in trouble, I thought of saying, but I didn't. As my teacher plainly explained the misogyny, chills sprinkled down my spine. Did she know she was giving me a resource to save myself? Did she know our country was violent? She knew, didn't she? Doesn't she know? To myself, I thought, she's giving us permission to think. She's giving me permission to be different. I will never forgive this. I can do this. I can talk back to Mom. I can be someone else. Are you sure you want to leave? The sergeant asked me in the school office as we finished signing my transfer papers. This is the part where I was supposed to say, actually, I changed my mind, but I reminded myself that girls can be strong in different ways. Yes, I said. My stomach made backflips at his obvious judgment, his glaring eyes. He scared me. He enraged me. And, I added shakily, I'll come back to visit. Though there were a few informal United States military schools in the late 1800s, it wasn't until 1911 that the Cadet Corps became a permanent staple of California society. Edward Alexander Forbes was the Adjutant General of California at that time and was a huge advocate for the creation of the California Cadet Corps. Forbes wrote in his 1914 report, "One of the most important moves to strengthen the military spirit in this state and to awaken waning patriotism and love of the flag and to furnish a young, virile, and trained asset to the country in case it should be needed in a time of national stress was the passage of the High School Cadet Bill by the California Legislature of 1911. One might assume that Forbes and others in government were concerned about the strength of the military, realizing that indoctrinating children could be one solution. Nearly a century later, I would enroll in the California Cadet Corps program, which had then transformed into a booming, well-funded network of schools. I thought I loved the United States. I was 11 years old, standing awkwardly in a formal black uniform. I didn't know that my country was incapable of loving me. Once I reached my early 20s, something uncomfortable had gotten into my heart that made me reach out to my old military school classmates. For I could never forget the children I grew up beside while we suffered the rigid school structure. Maybe talking to them, as well as my own independent research, would help me understand this empire better. I had liked you too, Crystalia said to me in a dream. I woke up, my head spinning. Was that really what she'd said before I hastily blocked her, or have I imagined it? I will always remember the Titi night that was her quinceañera party. She glowed in the beautiful colors of the expansive celebration. I gazed at the party decorations, wondering why our parents wouldn't allow us to be as colorful as our festivities. I could hear my heart fluttering hard and fast. Crystalia, sensing my racial and social anxiety, reminded me that although she had many Latina friends, I was her bestest friend. I followed her as much as I could throughout the night, her proud confidant and companion. When we took minute-long hugs before saying goodbye, sometimes I swear she was looking deep in my eye, like she wanted me to know I loved her in that kind of deep way we wished our parents loved each other. The heat of it glowed in me like hot amber. Crystalia and I stepped around it like a careful fire. When we walked to the field of our school in the mornings, I wanted to touch her. When we danced at her 15th birthday party, I wanted to touch her. When we laid on the grass together writing prose, it scared me how much I wanted to touch this girl. I was eager to transfer schools for that reason, too. I wouldn't have to face the consequences of my classmates realizing I loved a girl. I could feel them watching me. I could feel her watching me. I could feel my thighs getting hot and desperate whenever I made her laugh. I wouldn't have to see her every day and hope my dreams of touching her weren't all over my face. Wouldn't have to feel smaller than I already did. The don't ask, don't tell law was only repealed around the time I dreamt of Crystalia kissing me. Homophobia remains heavy in the halls of every military space, including our school. It's still hard to believe we're adults. I've reached out to Crystalia on Facebook, and I'm not surprised that she's the person most hyped to hear from me. I've been avoiding reaching out for years, now here she is with the detailed fuzzy text messages that I remember. A large discomfort soars through my chest, though. What the fuck am I doing? I'm almost afraid to tell her what my life is like. What if there's something she won't accept? Crystalia declines talking about her military school experience. She seems busy, tired. I encourage her to make more art like we used to, and she says she will. I considered the secret that still appeared in my dreams, keeping it in my pocket. Do people in the military accept people who are queers, whores, and don't like the military? Difficult to answer, huh? But, I asked myself, didn't she already know? Doesn't she already know? Didn't she know? She knew. Didn't she? Gerald had been my first boyfriend ever. Your boobs are good. Really good, he said when we were 13. I laughed, appreciating the compliment, feeling warm and ridiculous. Tall and full of Spanglish, he was a funny mess. It was totally unexpected to us and our classmates that we not only became a couple, we made out. Even with his hand on my back and his tongue down my throat, I was still looking at Crystalia. And in class with a new girl in school, we played footsies and everything in me got loud and hot. It was the same loud hotness I felt when Gerald held me tight and talked about my body. Catching Gerald's eyes, I realized he could see how I was looking at her. Her foot was making me warm. Too warm. I know I told you I'm queer, but did you know that Empire prevented me from confessing my love to you? I think of asking Crystalia in the present day. When Gerald and I got together, I eventually texted Gerald and Crystalia that I was bisexual. We discussed it minimally within middle school halls, but I was floored by their responses, though not incredibly surprised because of their love for me and the world. Crystalia accepted it. Gerald also did, but also started fetishizing me. I told Crystalia that I wasn't that interested in girls and hoped she would continue overlooking my billowing heart. Gerald was the first boy I wanted to sink into me. We should have sex. I know how to put on a condom. He texted me on Facebook Messenger. I was eager to, but also confused on the how. I would like to, but where? We're 13. I love you. He texted me on Facebook Messenger. Do you think you'll go to the military? I remember asking him. To an effect, he responded, I don't know. Not really. But everyone in my family has, and I'm expected to. That bothered me. Thinking about Gerald casually flying off to fight in Afghanistan just because his relatives did. What were we fighting in Afghanistan, anyways? Some of the other boys, including the boy who I sexted a year or two before, were offended at our interracial romance. They started harassing me. Notes were written, principals were called, parents were summoned. Depression found my body and made a deep seed there. I might remember the heartbreak so vividly, for it was the first time the entire community punished me for being a black girl burning. Well, I'm a veteran. Disabled, get assistance from the state, Gerald says. I'm not sure if I'm going to write a zine, a poem, an article, or some other shit. Most classmates leave me on red, which I expected. Gerald is the only one who has agreed to be interviewed at this depth. We are having a video chat. I was startled, yet a little relieved I can still recognize the boy in him. I interviewed him for about 30 minutes, covering socioeconomic issues as well as personal questions about his childhood trauma and military trauma. He freely shares his views on immigration, war, and women. Bad, harmful, will not rewrite here. He told me he barely remembered our relationship, which also shocked me a little, because I remember everything. I remember almost everything. Then I remember that I was and will always be a gender-fluid woman. The crucial lessons of war, misogyny, and romance I learned at the academy will continue to swallow me in disturbing dreams, invalid, overwhelming desires for the rest of my life. To serve a violent country as this, alongside boys like this, I quietly resolved when I left the school for the final time as the last 9th grade bell rung, is something I can never do. I dreamt about fucking Gerald and the other boys. I dreamt about us sprinting in a war we didn't understand. I dreamt about walking swag confident like the niggas and the white boys pretending to be like their nigga friends. I dreamt of Crystalia crawling into my twin-size mattress. I dreamt of driving away from bombs and yelling cadets. I dreamt of the gorgeous girls at school taking turns kissing me in bed. I dreamt of being a man with a full brown black beard. I dreamt of saying sorry to Hiroshima. I listened to Gerald express his bitterness and appreciation for the army. I take his long silences, digesting his meaty words, his sad thoughts, his strong opinions, his fractured body. Do you think the school prepared you for this? I ask. I will the tears not to appear in my voice, my eyes. Military school did not prepare us, Gerald says flatly. We smoke weed while having small talk, and I swear this is the highest I've been. I wonder if he will get violent once I block him. I sit wondering what we could have been if not for the United States of America. I look up from the coffee I'm brewing to see a handsome man beaming at me. It's 2019, and I pay my life fees, my fucking old man, and serving coffee under caffeine owners that have way too much anger and way too much money. The violence and gentrification is swallowing me, but I think I knew this man when we were young. Who is he? Nicole, he exclaims happily. I recognize the cool bass in his voice. Mario. When we were children, Mario was insightful, kind, and in my opinion, always stunning. I would stare into his eyes during class, making sure to look away when he caught my eye, smirking, or maybe he was smiling. As I served him coffee in an adult reality, I deterred myself from asking him about Empire, stopped myself from asking for a chance to drink coffee with him. I want to ask him about the casual ways he joked about the academy when we were young, but I just smile. A part of me still feels the lessons my family and the academy taught me was right. I am not deserving of the kindness of men, of the scalding pleasure I imagine comes with their touch. A part of me feels as if these big boys, men, will always be above me. His aura is still very calm and gentle, I think. I become more flesh, remind myself that my white coworkers are watching. Just because you're burning right now doesn't mean you have to admit it, I remind myself. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask. I beam a smile, maybe too big at him. Tell him to be safe at his job. Sometimes I'd anxiously ask the military staff at school when the war was ending. They never had an answer. In 2010, I had another question. Why are you torturing my friends? I learned that undocumented people were considered criminals. but there are also so many of them attending our school. I came across an article that detailed Michelle Obama going to visit an elementary school. A small girl asked her, "My mom said, I think, that she says that Barack Obama is taking away everybody that doesn't have papers." Michelle responded, "Well, that's something that we have to work on, right? To make sure that people can be here with the right kind of papers, right?" "That's exactly right." I started to ask myself, what does this military school want me to be? What is it taking from me? What is it preparing my community for? What will happen to my friends? What will happen to me? I watched clips of the police abusing Black Americans and Latin migrants, clicking off when I remembered I wasn't supposed to focus on that. I'm at a point in my adulthood where I don't know how to acknowledge my beauty and stand in it. I walk in San Francisco's financial district and feel ugly. I stand next to my white and non-Black coworkers and feel ugly. When Mario comes to talk to me, I feel briefly beautiful. I need to ask him if he believes in this empire, if he thinks people like us can win. I need to know if he's committed to being his own person, not one of empire. I need him to know what the school did to me. And Mario, he's so nice. But what if one day he is not nice anymore and holds my wrist down like the other violent men have done? I write Mario notes to give him every now and then. I write cute messages along with my number. Every morning, instead of giving him the paper note, I crumple every single one. I wonder if he could see my racial anxiety startling my body, or the anxiety about the train fare making my hands shake, the embarrassment I feel for being attracted to him, or the overstimulating truth of not being wanted as a Black person in Oakland or San Francisco. I wonder if I should tell him I remember his stories about crossing the desert. It was another clue that let me know something was very wrong with the world. As Mario spoke about his migration, the class was so silent it felt empty. The undeniable pain of it expanded the room. Every time Mario talked, I wanted to listen. I wanted to listen to what this sensitive, strong boy had to say. After quitting the coffee job, I'm startled awake by dreams of Mario sipping cold brew and talking quietly to my thighs under the night. Someone called out my name while I'm waiting for the bus. I recognized him at the corner of my eye, but wasn't going to say nothing. He was one of them white boys with a crude West Oakland accent, the kind of archetype that would break my heart someday, not knowing that I'd be keeping the exquisitely soft masculine clothes he left in my room. Kevin probably doesn't even remember me, I think to myself. "Nicole!" Holy shit. "Nicole!" I turn around. It is him. I smile at him, pleasantly surprised someone remembers me. "Nicole!" We hug so close I'm blown away. He's much taller than I remember, but growth does things. I can see the boy in him. Did we ever hug like this as children? "Do you still write poetry? How you doing?" Kev asks. I smile, surprised that he remembers my verses. Then I realize I'm crossing my arms and vacating my eyes as we talk. I'm remembering when he and his friends would harass me as if I've been blown 14 years back into the past. I'm still afraid of the men I don't know. We were never close, but I can vaguely remember him running around with Gerald, the both of them without me. The memory of the loneliness chills me for a moment. My friends were so upset when I was leaving the school. I couldn't bring myself to say, I don't want to be a part of a war empire, or I want to see if going to another school will allow me to be gay, creative, and meet nicer boys. I considered telling him how the girl who was hurt is now a woman and completely wounded. I wondered if I should tell him I interviewed the childhood classmates I was in love with, to understand not only the violence of this empire, but the violence done to me in adulthood. I consider asking to see his art, and consider Kev's mark on me. Does he remember running his finger down my back, watching me shiver with inexplicable eroticism, laughing with the other boys at his trick? Does he remember making the space between my thighs sing when I didn't ask? Does he remember watching me discover my sexual spirit and laughing at it fly? Kev looks at me carefully as I'm remembering. The dreams of Crystalia and Gerald are clinging to my back. My heart belongs to growth in the soil, not to a nostalgic man. I'm waiting for the bus home to take me back to myself. Almost every classmate that recognizes me these past few years have remembered my art. And while I can't always remember names, I remember how beautiful their beings were, how they made me feel. Well, you take care, Kev says. You too, I say, smiling big despite the sadness. As he walks off into the distance, a spread of relief goes over me. Thank God some of my classmates did not walk into baseless wars. Thank God some of us are still alive, simply walking in the street. I watch him until he crosses the street safely, saying prayers about the land as I wait the bus. Well, we might be free, and I never officially served in the U.S. military, but my guilt of even attending a military academy still consumes me today. What the fuck did Afghanistan do to me? What did Vietnam do to me? What did Palestine do to me? What did Guam do to me? What did Mexico do to me? What did Iraq do to me? Nothing. Nothing. Nothing.